Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice here at UTA. I'm really pleased today to be joined by our two newest faculty members in the department, and so I'm excited for all of you to get to know them a bit. Let me just introduce them both briefly, and then they will tell you a bit more about themselves. First, we have Dr. Frederick Engram, who completed the EDD from Northeastern University and is joining us now as a joint hire between our department and the Center for African American Studies. And next we have Professor James Kelsay, who comes to us from the University of Cincinnati, and he will be finishing his PhD this spring, and so he will transition from professor to Dr. Kelsay. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us today. I'll start with Dr. Engram. Could you please tell us a bit about your education and background in criminal justice?
Certainly. I earned my bachelor's in criminology in 2005 from Johnson C. Smith University, a small historically Black college in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I earned a master's in the administration of justice and security from University of Phoenix. And then a few years later, earned my doctorate in education from higher education from Northeastern University.
Very good. Very good. Professor Kelsay, how about you?
Sure. So I got my bachelor's degree in psychology from St. Edward's University in Austin. I then went on to get my master's of science in criminal justice and criminology from UTSA, University of Texas at San Antonio. And like you mentioned, I'm about to complete my PhD in criminal justice and criminology from the University of Cincinnati. My research specialization is in policing and crime prevention and a little bit of crime in place research. In my background in criminal justice, I was able to work in a number of police partnerships and research projects while I was in my PhD program at the University of Cincinnati. And it really just kind of spawned, more interest in working with the police and working to solve local crime problems.
Excellent. It was a lengthy search for you both, and I'm very proud that you have landed here in Arlington at UTA. Northeastern and Cincinnati are both top flight Research One universities, and again, we're very pleased to have you both here. All right, so next, I want to ask you both, what made you want to teach and do research full-time at the university level?
For me, it's interesting. I've been in higher education for about 14 years now. Briefly, I left the higher education profession for a short stint to work. Actually, I wanted to use my degree. I wanted to make sure that I, applied what I went to school for. And so I worked in my former life in banking. I actually worked in financial crimes in banking at Wachovia, now Wells Fargo, for a few years. And I specifically investigated check fraud and forgery. So that was something that I did for a period of time. And for a while, I was on the path for law school. So that was why I earned those degrees. But there was something about being in higher ed that was calling me back, I feel. Even though, I had what I thought was my plan or what I was supposed to be doing, and then what I was actually supposed to be doing. And I think after working for some time, I began to make my transition back into higher education. And then being in higher ed, I noticed some very glaring disparities in the appearance of faculty and mentee opportunities for students of color, and in the absence of particular voices in the space. And I felt that that was where I was supposed to be. That's where I was needed most. UTA is a premier institution, and it provided an opportunity for me to be able to do the work that I love, which is, the intersection between race, crime, the law, and education. So that's what landed me here at UTA.
Excellent. Professor Kelsay?
Yeah, so when I was in my master's program, I had some really great mentors that I worked with quite a bit. They kind of gave me an inside look at what it's like to have this job, to work as a faculty member. And they also exposed me to a lot of really interesting research in policing and crime prevention and other topics that I just found really fascinating. And so that was kind of where my research interest started. But then later on, when I entered the PhD program at University of Cincinnati, I had the opportunity to teach a number of classes. And I just realized, I really enjoy working with students. I think it's really cool to help students prepare for their careers in criminal justice related fields, kind of encouraging their research interest. I always think it's so interesting to hear what my students are interested in and kind of, why they're interested in it. I really feel like I enjoyed my experience so much as a student in criminal justice. I feel sort of obligated to pass on the torch, pay forward the kind of great experience that I had to the students that are in my courses now.
Excellent. Well, speaking of teaching, I want to ask you both to tell us just a little bit about one course that you teach. Of course, our faculty teach a wide variety of different courses and several per semester, but if you could pick just one in particular, maybe that you like the most, and then just tell our students a little bit about it. Dr. Engram?
Sure. For me, I'd have to say victimology, because it provides an opportunity to understand how people become offenders, how people become victims, and how you can be either or at any given time. I also like the opportunity where we're able to share stories of how victims overcame instead of, focusing so much on the deficit of their experiences, and being able to provide a perspective. For example, we covered, excuse me, the Exonerated Five and the telling of that story, as well as the Me Too movement most recently, where we had an opportunity to show how victims decided no longer to be victims and to actually fight back and provide a different narrative for their story and for their lived experiences. So that is definitely one of my top favorites currently.
Excellent. Yeah, victimology is a really good course. It was one that we had not been able to offer for a few years, and so we're really happy, and I know our students are really happy that we get that back on the list. All right, Professor Kelsay, how about you?
Yeah, so my favorite course that I'm teaching right now is actually research methods. And I know that might sound surprising. Sometimes research methods can be a little bit dry. But I think it's a really cool course because, the main focus is on learning about research in criminal justice and criminology, how we do this research, and teaching students, the skills that they need to do their own research, but also at the same time helping them kind of be able to evaluate studies and research that they see, whether it's in the media or if they're doing research for another class. They can look at studies and they can kind of judge or grade them in terms of their quality, their rigor. And one of the goals I have in this course is to make students better consumers of research, so when they get out into the field, they are able to use research and kind of evidence-based practices in their jobs. One of the things I really like about this class, again, like I mentioned when I answered the last question, is I really like helping students develop their interest in specific areas of criminal justice, and this class gives me the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, research methods is my favorite as well, and I'm sure I get made fun of by faculty and students for that. What I hope our students can see is that whether it's something conceptual, like Dr. Engram was talking about, or something in terms of methodological skills, like Professor Kelsay was talking about, we have world-class faculty who are going to make it interesting and who have the right training to make it helpful and useful. So I appreciate that very much. So now on to the last question. This will be a little more challenging as we think through this. It could be argued that and currently in our nation and in our field that police officers and others that work in the justice system are scrutinized more than ever. With a widespread availability, in fact, of mobile devices and social media, every citizen can be an amateur news reporter. Officers across the nation have been guilty of brutality and abuse of power, and a fractured relationship with minority, racial, and ethnic groups in some cities has become even worse. So for you both, two questions. One, why is working in the criminal justice system still a great choice for our students? And then two, how should they approach the current increased scrutiny of those that work in the justice system?
So I certainly feel that working in the criminal justice system can still be an amazing opportunity and an amazing career path, but I think it all depends on how you view it. I think even as a criminology major as an undergrad, there was always this heavy burden that everyone placed on us, excuse me, to become an officer or to work in corrections in some capacity. And that's amazing for those who are interested in that path. However, having a degree in criminology opens you up to do a lot of other service related opportunities and careers, right? So you could be a social worker, you could go on to become a criminologist, you can go into forensics, psychology. As Professor Kelsay said, you can go into the law, go to law school, you can become a professor. There's a lot of other career paths that you can most certainly do and still use your love for criminology and criminal justice and the understanding of it to apply to those places. I think people and students should definitely consider where we are and the place that you are in your life and the place you are in your journey with the need for grace and understanding in those roles. I think there is most certainly a belief that the role is one that can be a conflict for many, and I can totally and certainly understand it. But I think there's also a way to recreate and reimagine what it looks like, where there is opportunity for actual justice and opportunity for actual restoration between the community and the law, and the way that that relationship builds.
That's good. Professor Kelsay?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think despite all of the problems, in criminal justice right now, which there's always been problems with the criminal justice system, historically speaking, I think it's still worthwhile to pursue a career in criminal justice because we have to develop solutions to the problems that we're facing. And one of the ways that I think we can do this is making sure that all the students that we have at UTA get a solid understanding of the criminal justice system and its problems. And this also includes the research behind the solutions to these problems. So, in coming years and right now and in the future, there's going to be so many opportunities for students to work in criminal justice related careers where they're going to be able to use the knowledge and skills that they can learn at UTA to effectively respond to these problems. And I think that, it's important that we don't shy away from the kind of problems and scrutiny that people are facing in the criminal justice system. Personally, I feel like it's time for everyone to consider taking a solutions-oriented approach, right now to these problems that we're facing. And this means that we really need to work together these problems using things like evidence-based practices or those solutions that are backed up by research evidence. This is true whether we're talking about improving police-community relations or whether we're trying to reduce crime. For example, we know that community policing is effective at improving, police-community relations. So we should use that. We should focus on that. We also have the principles of procedural justice. This includes treating people with respect, and this can improve interactions between police and members of the public. We have problem-oriented policing that's effective at reducing crime and disorder, but it doesn't necessarily inflame police-community relations the same way that aggressive policing tactics can. So, despite all of the tragedy and the darkness that we seem to be facing right now, I think there are a number of bright spots that we should focus on and expand on to hopefully develop solutions to a lot of the problems that we're facing right now. And a lot of these things students at UTA are going to be exposed to and learn about and be able to discuss.
That's good. That's good. I want to share just a quick story with our students. About 3 years ago, I was invited to speak at a policing conference that included about 300 or so line officers and mid-level managers. And I was asked to describe our program here at UTA. So it was largely a recruiting visit. And I arrived a little early because I wanted to hear some of the sessions and one of the large gatherings and see what they might be saying. And I'll be quite honest, I was probably expecting it to be a quote unquote back the blue sort of event. When I saw that they were talking about some recent instances nationally of police brutality, I was sort of expecting the speaker to say, well, this is the time that we need to support each other more than ever. That so-called blue wall of silence, that blue line needs to be reinforced more than ever. But much to my surprise and delight, the speaker said, this is the time not to complain about increased scrutiny, not to complain if officers are fired or even charged with crimes when they do bad things in other areas. This is the time to get better and to get rid of those that do not uphold the highest standards. And he plainly said, if you are worried that you are being watched too closely, right, and you maybe not want to do policing anymore, get out. Resign now. We don't want you in our field. And I thought, how refreshing.
Yes.
To hear that sort of thing. And I would say the same thing, and I think you two are saying this as well. Our students need to rise to the occasion. If they want to go into a field like policing or also corrections or anything in the field, focus on being more professional than ever. Focus on being more ethical than ever. Devote yourself to those principles of procedural justice. If you're in policing, follow the really good recommendations from President Obama's 21st Century Policing Report. Be better than ever. That is the way forward, right? Not to sit back and complain about people noticing maybe if you make a mistake, right? And so, I mean, that's what I think we need to do. And at its core, if we can treat each other with kindness and respect and remember why we are in this position to begin with, right, that can certainly be very helpful. But I say, let's rise to the occasion and do our best and, treat this as a time to really improve the system that we study. So I really appreciate both your comments. Is there anything either of you would like to add to this, or anything else you might like to share with our students as we depart?
Not anything that I can think of right now.
Excellent.
I just look forward to working with you in the coming years.
Excellent. Well, we are thrilled. I'm personally thrilled as department chair that you both are here, and I know our students are already benefiting from your expertise and your knowledge and your passion for what you do and what you teach. So to all of our students and to others watching, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to interacting with you in the coming days. Please check out our website at www.uta.edu/criminology. You can see a full list of all of our faculty members, including Dr. Engram and Professor Kelsay, and shoot them an email if you have any follow-up questions or comments for them based on this video. All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you. Go Mavs.